Hello friends, I'm Weston, and in a moment I will be joined by Alex as we talk about rapidly changing technology and how we consume the news. Then, later, we will be swapping old spooky ghost stories from the news. You're listening to Profoundish.
Phantom clap.
The phantom clap. That does sound like some kind of... I imagine it to be a sci-fi erotica mystery novel.
I knew there was going to be some sort of erotica in there. The phantom clap.
It's at least erotica mystery. I just threw in sci-fi because I feel like something about phantom makes me think Star Wars, so you can kind of like take advantage of that a little bit.
Is this Wes Cloud's epic return?
What? I remember
Wes
who Wes
Cloud?
Cloud is.
Wes Cloud is the author of Two Men Walking Abreast.
Yes, but what do you mean? Oh, is this you mean is this like his next
novel?
His
next book?
You know what? I was thinking because Wes Cloud, you will remember that Wes Cloud is the author of Two Men Walking Abreast, but he was also the star of that, because it was a play on the name Les Stroud, or whatever the heck that guy's name is, that does the Survivor Man series, where we did Surviving a Cornfield.
Oh, is that true?
Yes.
I don't remember that. That's hilarious.
That's when we filmed ourselves out in the cornfield. I had like a quarter jug of milk and one other item for survival or something like that. I don't think it ever got finished. Did it ever get finished? I don't think so.
That was one of our unfinished projects. I'll never forget because it was so, oh my God, that made me laugh so hard because you're like, okay, I have all the essentials. What's his name? What Les something?
I think it was Les Stroud.
I'm Les Stroud. I've got all the essentials ready to survive in a cornfield. It's 72 degrees. Oh, there's another joke, too, we'll go back to. But he was like, I've got food. Or I don't know what you said. It's like, I've got wires. I've got this. And I got this. A gallon of milk. And then it was like a quarter gallon of milk.
Yeah, it was not even close to full.
It was just whatever's left in my mom's fridge. But then the other thing that I thought was funny that we both laughed at the time was it was you like establishing the setup. So it's like, Tuesday, July 14th, 72 degrees, Fahrenheit. You just kept listing things.
Yeah, his name was Les Stroud, so my name was Wes Cloud.
Cloud.
No, that had some good potential for a video. That did. Yeah, 72 degrees, Fahrenheit.
It just kept going. Fahrenheit, midday.
Well, I hope we are leaving this in the episode. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Profoundish.
Welcome to Profoundish!
I'm your host, Weston, and I'm currently sitting many, many, many miles away from my co-host,
Alex Duquette. It may be many, many miles away, but it doesn't feel like it's many miles away, you know?
It's just one short digital/electronic reverberation away. How do you describe the distance that sound can travel through the internet?
Oh,
that is a weird question, I understand.
Well, at first I thought you were just talking about, like, the speed of sound, but then you're talking about through the internet, though.
Yeah.
So that's not the speed of sound at all. So
I don't... kind of wild that, like, the speed of sound has a speed, whatever it is, because you can go, like, Mach 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. That's the speed of sound. Speed of sound, Google will tell me, 343 meters per second, right? But we're like whatever many, many miles apart from each other, and we're speaking. And technically, the only way we are communicating is through sound. And that speed, because it's digital, because it's being collected by a microphone, basically converted into light and being sent to you. In the modern age, over the internet, the speed of sound is darn near the speed of light.
That's crazy.
Something like that.
This is the world we live in right now.
Isn't technology just freaking wild?
What's incredible, like, imagine, I remember reading somewhere, like, all of the great philosophers and forward thinkers, if they experienced in their lifetime the rate of change that we've experienced in ours, their minds would be so blown. Like the rate of technological advancement, how quick it's happened. Just in the last 30 years. It's incredible. I don't know. It's a strange thought.
No, I've heard that as well because, you know, I don't know, 2,000 years ago, right? If your job was some sort of metal worker or a carpenter or a cooper or something like that, whatever your job was, whatever your family job was, you were probably basically doing the same work your family had been for at least a few generations, with technology basically not changing, with techniques that were the same, right? Everything, there would be jumps in technology in this industry or that field, or there would be something every now and again that would come along and be like, oh, that's interesting and niche. But now, because so much is done with technology, and technology changes so quickly and so rapidly, everything about everything we do is changing so quickly with it. Like, we look at bookkeeping, everything we used to do with paper, like filing away reports and paperwork and receipts and all this stuff, offices of people would have to be sifting through and sorting through. That is all done automatically now. Inboxes, outboxes are completely replaced with memos and emails, you know?
Right. Oh, yeah. I mean, jobs have changed. I mean, everything, it's a domino effect with how the technology works now. It really is. That's a good way to put it.
It makes you hearken back to, I don't know what that means. It makes you hearken back. It doesn't make me hearken back, but it makes me think, makes me wonder just what it would be like to kind of go backwards in time. Like, hopefully no apocalypse would happen to revert us back. But I look at the way we consume, say, news on TV, radio, social media, right? We have access to all of this information so rapidly. And that access to all that information can sway the way we live our day-to-day lives. Maybe it affects the topic of conversation at work, or maybe it makes you see the world in a different way. Whereas, like we said, like that 2,000 years ago, you'd hear about some news from somewhere around the world or even the country, and it wouldn't really affect you. You'd be like, huh, that's novel, and carry on, because it doesn't affect you. How could it possibly? That news might be days to weeks old.
Or not, if not longer. Yeah, I mean, well, even just communicating anything to anybody, you know, the post office didn't exist, right? Messengers might have existed, but guess what? Messengers, how could you tell me a messenger they're not relaying that information correctly? You know, unless it's something that's actually written down, which wasn't always the case. So it's bizarre. I don't know how anybody communicated anything to each other.
Right?
Other than their immediate people, I guess, in their village or wherever they were. So, yeah, it's bizarre because now we have this little device in our pockets. And it's so weird. I was talking to somebody the other day. It was a coworker of mine. And we were talking about how the iPhone, right? Like, which really kind of revolutionized that smartphone world, that only came out in 2007. So it's 2022 right now. So what's that? That's 15, 16 years, something like that?
Yeah, 15 years.
15 years. But it feels like there was no, like, I'm just generically speaking, that there was no life before smartphones.
Right.
Like, it feels that way. Now, we both remember a time before smartphones, but it doesn't feel like there ever was that time. They have completely changed everything.
There was a time before when you could sit down on the toilet and didn't have your phone in your hands.
Right. You had to have that magazine or you're twiddling your thumbs.
You're just, waiting to get the job done and then moving on with your day.
Drop the kids off like there's nothing else you're going to do. And now all we do is sit and surf. I probably use my phone more in the toilet than anywhere else. That's not true.
Well, I mean, like, I can almost imagine that, like, the time people spend in their bathrooms is probably way longer now than it was 15 years ago.
Oh my gosh, I would love to see a those stats, because how could that not be true? I don't know how that could easily be studied, I guess, either, but come on. I mean, even if it's just by mere seconds, that can make a huge difference in big numbers if you're going by everybody.
Yeah, by everybody.
So.
I'm trying to think about it. Like, I wonder if there is some kind of study out there, because part of me wonders, you remember Reader's Digests, don't you?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like, that used to be the thing, was that every toilet had a Reader's Digest sitting on it. And so,
Yep.
like, it was a known thing those many years ago that, I bet more people spend time in the bathrooms now because they're all reading Reader's Digest. So I wonder, like before Reader's Digest, was everyone in and out in the bathrooms? They're like, in, squeeze one out in a minute, and you're out, because there's nothing to do. You got to get back to your life. But then Reader's Digest came around, and you're like, I got to spend 10 minutes on the toilet. Now we got TikTok. It's like, oh, shoot, I've been on the toilet for half an hour.
God, I'm glued to the seat. My skin's growing over the seat. I never read the Reader's Digest. What I had behind, like, on top of my, like, toilet was Uncle John's Unstoppable Bathroom Reader.
Uncle John's.
Now, I'm bringing this up to you because you liked that book, and I don't know if you remember this.
Did I?
You liked that book. Yes.
Uncle
In fact, didn't you... Maybe you didn't take it. I don't have it anymore, but I didn't get rid of it. I think I gave it to somebody. Maybe I didn't give it to you, but I remember you enjoying it, because it was, you can look it up, it's just a bunch of random useless facts. And this is, once again, years and years and years ago, before smartphones, or at least maybe during their infancy. There was a time when there were smartphones out there and we didn't have them yet. I just remember it would have like random facts, like, the strangest ways people have died. And then it just got a big list of that, and with their sources. Then at the bottom of each page, it has a random fact, like a butterfly can fly on average of up to 15 miles an hour, and all this stuff.
It's a fast butterfly.
That is, and that's a true. I think it's like 14 or 15. That's a true thing.
Wow.
But
yeah, no,
so,
I
always
completely forgotten
that.
about Uncle John's Unstoppable Bathroom Reader. You can get the October 23rd, 2003 edition on Amazon for $12.79.
That's
with
not bad.
Prime
Maybe
shipping. You can get it on Kindle for $15. Why
See,
can you get this on Kindle?
That is strange. Well, there's only one left in stock for this, too, at least paperback, so you get it quick.
Yeah,
at least according to my Amazon.
Maybe I do vaguely remember you showing me this, like at one of your houses. I forget which. Forever. Well, no, 2000. I don't know what year it would have been, but yeah, I think I vaguely do remember maybe you showing this to me. I don't think you gave it to me though. I don't think I have it because I had completely forgotten about it.
My book was yellow. This one has like a bunch of weird colors on it. Mine was just pretty much yellow with a bunch of ducks on it, but it's the same. It was just a different edition or different year or something. But yeah, I always enjoyed that on the toilet because even at my dad's house when I'd stay with him, he had like a random facts. For some reason, both my mom and my dad, different households, loved random fact toilet sitting sessions. I guess I don't know, but that's kind of what I grew up on, and I loved it. I learned so many things with my pants down.
That's, I can't take that away from you. I think we do the most of our learning, the best of our learning with our pants down.
See, thank you. I loved how I said that, and then there was just silence because there's a delay between you and me talking a little bit. So I just said, I learned everything with my pants down. Then just, oh God. That didn't land.
I feel like there was like a moment where my brain had to catch up to what you had said. Where I'm like, yeah.
We digress.
But yeah, like I understand the random facts thing, and I don't really remember what I used to do on the toilet because I feel like I can't have been nothing. like you were saying, I can't imagine a time before smartphones, so I can't have been doing nothing. I must have been just reading books, just my like novels.
Well, because reading, I get to see Little Weston just reading this big novel that's
Lord
like
of the Rings or something.
You're reading like some Lord of the Rings book, just big thick book, just with your little legs dangling over the seat. That sounds hilarious and fitting to me. But well, my thing is too is that I read those books sometimes, but I do also recall, I think, not doing anything because I usually didn't like to read on the toilet. I was I went in there and I wanted to get that done as quickly as I could. And I remember I think, I could be making this up, but I think I remember being bored, just staring at the wall telling stories in my head, and but
it is.
I'm sure there's times where you just nothing else to do. It is, but yet you got to do it.
Because I was never. Yeah. I never was someone who had to read like newspapers. I know like in old TV shows or movies or whatever, like the classic look is like the dad, right? He's reading his newspaper on the toilet. I've never known anyone to actually read a newspaper on a toilet.
Actually, gosh, yeah, me neither. That's just a very like pop culture, like 1950s Americana, like look. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I have.
It's a gag thing. It's a
Yeah, I have wonder if like that was a thing in like old TV because you could cover a person with a newspaper, right? Like for censorship, physical censorship that way.
Yeah.
Did anyone ever do that, or was that invented by Hollywood?
Ooh, that's a good question.
That's a good conspiracy.
I don't know.
Hollywood invented newspapers on the toilet.
Don't forget the other classic newspaper trope in television and movies, which is the spy, and he's holding the paper up and he's peeking over the
in his trench coat.
Yep. There's our topic this week. How many the different tropes newspapers used in Hollywood?
you don't actually
very specific.
Yeah, very specific. You actually don't know what the topic this week is. We've actually just slowly wormed our way into it. The audience, everybody out there listening, you don't know either because I haven't explained it. Today, this is my week to host. I have chosen to explain nothing. My topic this week is news. Is actually news and how we consume it.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So we're
going to work our way there.
That
was really good.
Yeah, we're dancing around it. We're already talking about our topic, so I'm just like, let's go for it.
Okay, I was going to say, like, was this like, I mean, Weston, you're a smart guy, but I mean, if you did that on purpose, that was genius. You led me right into it.
What really helped is when you started talking about technology and how quickly that's changed. And one of those technologies is how we consume information, and information is news. Yeah. And so I was like, I'm like, we'll worm our way over to how we consume news, basically.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. I'm putting my improvisational skills to the test here, everybody.
I admire that. I respect that as an improv guy myself.
But now that we've put it right on the nose, that's what I wanted to talk about. Do we consume news, and how do we do it? How do we share it? That kind of thing.
Sure. Well, I guess I can kind of share a little bit. I know how I've consumed news over the years has changed, and the amount I've consumed has changed as well. So I remember the early days of watching, and I'm sure you can relate to this to an extent too. I remember watching like my parents watch the news or get their news. And that's how I got any sort of inkling of it when I was a child. So, my dad every morning religiously had the TV on. He had his station that he watched every single morning. And then I'd usually wake up to that as a kid. And then I remember also there was a lot of news going on the radio when we were young. I mean, there's still news now on the radio, but I remember hearing it more because I was in a car that had the radio playing more, So I remember those memories a lot. I also remember being really bored and not caring because you're a kid who cares about the news, right?
Right. That's what I was going to say. Are there any news stories from then that you can even remember? Because we were never a radio news listening family, really. We listened to a lot of music, or my dad would put the baseball game, probably a Cubs game, on the radio. I don't remember a lot of news stuff on radio, but TV, I know the news would be on, but I don't have any idea what was playing back in the as a kid.
I strangely have two, and I know you have one, actually, but two news stories from our childhood that I actually remember, but they're both for kind of obvious reasons if you know me. Well, one of them is. The other one is obvious for anybody. So one is I do remember seeing 9/11 news. Yeah. I remember seeing that.
I can attest to the 9/11. Anyone that lived through that in an era where you could remember things, everyone remembers 9/11, but...
Yeah, absolutely. Now, that's a different topic, but remember that.
A little heavy.
The other one I remember, which is heavy but not nearly to the extent, is when George Harrison, the second Beatle, died. He died since we were alive. He died it was 2001, and it was like brain cancer.
Oh.
So, and I remember my dad played the records. I was already a pretty big Beatles fan. For those who don't know, big Beatles fan and big influence on my music. But anyway, so he died, and I remember watching that at my grandma's house at the time and not realizing that any of them were dead. And I thought, oh no, like I think I was young enough to think that they were probably still making music now or something, right?
Or at the very least, you just didn't conceptualize where they would be. Like, you just didn't even think about it. It's like, oh, Beatles music. I like their music. You're not thinking about them as people.
Right. It was just more of a concept. It was an idea. I didn't really like legitimize it in a lot of ways. So anyway, he died. And I actually do vividly remember seeing it. I remember seeing an image. It was taken at night, and it was of his home or his apartment in wherever he lived at the time. And then, like, people talking. It was probably his wife or somebody kind of just talking about it, and he passed away, blah, blah. So that is the only memory I have as a child watching the news, because I remember I come from a family of fans of that group, so they were all like, it was a big deal in our house, So I do remember that. That's the only other childhood news memory that I actually remember.
Yeah, childhood news, I can't think of any good stories as a child. Again, besides like 9/11, I think everyone knows that one. I do remember as a teen coming to find out that I kind of had a distaste for news on TV. And I think maybe it was just certain time slots because, okay, one, even if it's the news, there's just so many goddamn commercials on TV, period. So there's just so much advertising. So like you're getting very little news. And then because, the news doesn't know when people are watching, they cycle and regurgitate the same news kind of over and over again all day. So really just not a big fan for those reasons as well. But I forget which channel it was. I was getting really irritated when I remember complaining to, I think my mom. I think I was watching the news with my mom or something. Someone random that I don't normally watch the news with. And I was just getting really irritated because they were doing a happy story about like some kittens or something. And I was just upset, like, why is this on the news? This is not news. This is kittens. And I just remember being, like, really irritated. And I think this is around the same era of time where I think I might be combining this. You remember when the lip sync stuff got really popular? Like the lip sync contests just freaking everywhere on daytime TV?
Yes, I do. A horrible
So, like,
era.
there were, like, every news station had to have, like, I don't know, their anchors or whatever, their hosts lip syncing some song, and they thought it was this hilarious contest. I'm like, this isn't funny. I don't like this, and it's not news.
Right. Well, I remember thinking that you said those are teen years is when you kind of started realizing that.
Yeah.
So that sounds right to me too, because I remember same get up as before. So I would be a teen. I was probably 15, 16 years old. I was visiting my dad. I'd spend the night, whatever. And then I would wake up. Guess what? I'd walk in the living room. He'd be watching the news. And I started to think, most of this is not news. Like, you can tell that they're a 24-hour news network. They need to fill up the time slot for 24 hours. What are they going to do? So at least I saw it as it's just entertainment. It's not doing,
right.
In my opinion, at least at all times, its intended purpose, which is to provide news, keep us abreast, there's our word.
Keep us abreast with the times.
Of the goings on. So that kind of bothered me. And from that point up until my early 20s, I really didn't consume any news because I was kind of sick, and except the big stuff, but I was kind of sick of just, there's so much like kind of BS you got to crawl through.
Yeah.
And a lot of those networks, I would usually just watch news on the non-24-hour networks. I would just do it on like your CBS or your ABC in the morning to get the quick stuff out of the way, and then I would go on about my day, because if not, if you tune into, like CNN or Fox News or something at like 2 p.m., you're just going to be getting kittens or whatever, right?
Or
just
whatever.
to generalize.
Just filler stuff.
Yeah. So I can't remember who said this, and I'm not even going to quote it correctly, but I remember somebody said, news has never been the same because CNN was the first network to go 24-hour. It completely changed ever since then. It became much more of just a commercialized like industry instead of let's give you the news. You know, that, like more so than ever after that point. And that was in the 80s, I think, is when that happened.
Like a public responsibility. I always felt like the news, like if we made it capital T, capital N, the news, should be a public responsibility to keep everyone up to speed with the most important information to us as a society, whether that's at the local level or grander. But like you hit on earlier, at some point, probably with the 24/7 stuff, because they had, like you said, fill the space with something, it became this own entertainment genre where you didn't watch the news to keep informed. You watched the news because it was your favorite channel to watch for whatever reason. Like that was, it's like watching like reality TV or drama, but your favorite happens to be the news.
Right. It just, yeah, I still see it personally in my life as kind of like you said, it's like a service to us to be able to receive the news. But obviously, that's a whole nother bag of tricks. But it's completely changed, and I mean, even before our lifetime. Like I don't think we've ever seen. But once again, though, some of the mediums have changed. Of course, these are the obvious ones. You know, nobody reads the newspaper. I can't say nobody, but I mean, come on.
Few. I mean, newspaper industry has been nosediving for a long time.
It was sad. Our hometown, our hometown. I remember their newspaper place shut down a few years ago. Now, that was sad. But I mean, of course, it's a small town. There was already limited numbers of people who were getting the paper. You know.
Yep.
So, but plus, we live in a world where it's, you know, something new. You can't compete with the internet. As soon as something prints, it's old. So at least on the internet, you can write it up. You're good to go again. So how do you look if you consume news now? How do you consume your news now? That's what I want to know.
God, I feel so bad about it because it's like the worst way to consume news. But it's
can I guess?
Yeah,
Twitter.
Freaking Twitter. It's freaking I'll be on my Twitter feed or whatever, and I'll hear about a thing, and I'll look into it from there, or in their like search tab or whatever. I think it's the search one, wherever it is. It'll have a list of like the trending topics, trending things, and a lot of the times that's like big trending news stories. So that's where I usually hear about a lot of my stuff is freaking Twitter, and I know it's bad.
Well, don't feel bad because honestly, I'm not on Twitter like I used to be, but that's where I get a lot of my stuff too, whether I want it to be or not. Like, and what I hate about it though, once again, I'm there too, so I'm not pointing fingers at you, trust me. But what I hate about it is that Twitter is literally, even if you go to the news section and you're like looking up stuff, it shows the news, and then directly below it is, here's everybody's opinion on it. Immediately. You know what I mean? Like that's what Twitter is.
Sometimes I like that though, because I like reading the threads and just watch the chaos.
Oh, see, I can't do the chaos. The chaos depresses me, if I can be honest with you. What I want to do is I want to receive my news, then, especially if it's big news, and I want to process it as I want to process it, as I see the world. Then I don't mind going and looking at the chaos. But unfortunately, and it's because, guess what, I'm human. I look, just like you do.
Yeah.
So, and then, you know, because what I want to do, at least I try to the best of my abilities, to receive news and try and look at sources and try and find the most unbiased sources that I can, because you and I both know we live in a world of very biased sources. Everybody's biased everywhere, no matter what. But so it's hard to, even if you're reading something that is biased, trying to pick out like what's just the information here. You know, because sometimes it's hard to find anything that's unbiased. Like, you know what I'm trying to say? Like, I'm just trying to find the information. I can come to my own conclusions.
Most of the stories, especially on social media, when you're getting an article posted there, a lot of them are editorials on the news.
Yeah.
So you're getting a lot of opinion from even just the author, let alone reading, you know, the threads of everyone else jumping in and talking about it. If you want the information just kind of like black and white as it is, that is actually either one of two things. One, really hard to find, or two, available on really sketchy news sites that you are dubious whether the facts they're telling you is true to begin with. Because it'll be like, Iron Golem Times or whatever. You know,
Iron just Golem Times,
some random
Minecraft news.
Yeah, or whatever. Like it will not be a well-known publication online. You're like, I've never heard of this. I don't know if I trust it. So it'll be something like that with like 10 billion ads on the website, on the sides and your face, just everywhere. Or
it needs you to subscribe to something.
Well, those are the ones that are usually slightly, like if it wants you to subscribe for a monthly thing, that's like the New York Times or whatever, or Washington Post. And it's like, you get
I get that
free
crap
articles.
on all of them. Like, come on. Like, I can get this news for free somewhere else anyway, and it's not like you're any more credible than anybody else, honestly, the way I see it. I mean, but like that's another thing, too. If you look at the big dogs, right, I won't name them, but like all these big dogs, like in the news world,
woof, woof.
If you just look at their headlines, they're all different.
Yeah.
Because a lot of them do take a stance politically. If it's a political news, it's just like, just tell me the information, please. No, I get it. I think you and I both don't even need to explain why it is the way it is. We know why, right?
Yeah.
But
they have to get you to click somehow.
They got to get you to click somehow, stick around. They want, yeah. So, but you and I were talking about that too, even with just Googling it. Even just Googling it. Google is biased towards you and what you search and your search habits and your purchase habits. Like everything's involved in that. So if you're typing in something, it's going to probably try and push if it can, if it knows you enough, push something that it's going to think you're going to click on more, which likely has an opinion behind it that is shared with you, but, that sort of thing. So it's hard to get it completely unbiased. It really is. And that's important to me in a world where, everything's so convoluted in terms of fact.
Everything is coming through some kind of lens. And at the end of the day, I think we as individuals are required to put in more effort to verify our information. And like we were saying at the beginning of this whole topic, is that is so much more difficult to do because everything's so changing so rapidly. Everything changes so quickly. And by the time you verify information on one news topic, 17 more have come out. So,
yep,
it's
true.
It's a problem that I don't have a solution to. I think it's a struggle. We can call it a problem, but then it sounds like, well, we need to find the solution. Honestly, I think it's like a perpetual struggle, right? The perpetual struggle is just to constantly be aware of where we're getting our news, like how it's written or how it's being displayed to us, and just always remain kind of skeptical about anything that sounds like it's outrageous. Because if it's outrageous, it's like, okay, well, there might be some embellishment here. If it's enraging, okay, maybe take a step back. Maybe it's being written in an inflammatory way. Like most news is just humdrum, like boring. So when you see something outrageous, sometimes you got to take a step back and like, okay, do I need to look further into this? I need to go verify this. But
and you spoke to this earlier, and I just kind of want to touch on it again. It's like, and I can only speak for myself. I'm not speaking for anybody else. But I will say that I really do believe, at least for myself, that, like you said earlier, it really does kind of lands on me. To at least try my best and do my part to do the research, look and see, is this really true? Is this random article that somebody found, is this true? And it's quite often, more often than not, you can very quickly tell if this is something that's just complete BS or not. Now digging into the details is a different story, but just do your part. That's what I try to do. I do my part. I do the research. I try to come to my own conclusions the best I can before I see other people's conclusions of the information given. So helps me sleep at night. And yeah, I think a lot of it, they're not going to change. The big dogs aren't going to change. Don't expect them to. I can tell you that with certainty. But I can, and I can change how I perceive it, how I take it, as long as you take it.
I was waiting for my entry. I was going to say, so long as you take it, Alex. I really was. I was about to say, so
that's
long as you take it, Alex.
That's an ongoing gag between us.
Also, speaking of being able to sleep well at night, I think it's about time we transitioned to some potentially spooky news stories that maybe will make it difficult to sleep at night. Stay tuned until after this commercial break.
Profoundish is brought to you in part by Alex Duquette Medleys. I make theme song medleys, which is where I take a bunch of theme songs and mash them up into one bite-sized song. From Nickelodeon to Adult Swim, I cover it all. So, if you want to take a fun nostalgic trip, search my name, Alex Duquette, on YouTube, or go to alexduquette.net.
Profoundish is brought to you in part by A Hasty Podcast, my own personal podcast talking about life, games, media, and sometimes featuring guests. Look for it on YouTube, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Well, that was weird.
You're weird. And welcome back, everybody.
You're weird. No, you're weird. Your mom's weird.
Your mom's weird. My mom can beat your mom up.
You're probably right.
No.
Sorry, Mom, if you're listening.
Have a mom throw down. I'm just kidding. My mom's probably
versus
not
mom.
listening.
You know, you and I did have the idea. Do you remember this?
Oh, okay.
At least, or maybe, like, you and I had the idea to do mom plays, where we'd get our moms to play games. Do you remember this?
Did we? I don't remember this.
I still think, at least at that given time, we were sitting on a gold mine and we never took advantage. We were going to do Let's Plays, and it was going to be moms playing like GTA 5 like just came out. So we're going to get like our moms in front of GTA or Call of Duty or games that they're not familiar with at all and play them and get their reactions.
It's basically just not that they're that old yet, but it's like the elder reacts from the Fine
Older
Bros or whatever.
react,
Old
yeah.
people react or whatever. It's like it's just like that, but as a Let's Play format.
Yeah, that's true. And I don't know if they were doing I know they're doing reacts then. I don't know if they were doing the game reacts yet or not. But either way, I thought we were sitting on something pretty good there.
I think we were sitting on a lot of gold mine ideas that we just never did, and we could be huge. We could be huge right now, Alex. We're goddamn geniuses. We just don't do it.
I know. Why did it take us so long just to start a damn podcast?
It takes us a while to start. It takes me a long time to start anything. We talked about that, how, my name is Weston Hasty. Hey, you guys thought I wasn't going to mention my name in this podcast.
Every episode.
And yeah, we have to talk about my name. Hasty, it means fast, it means quick, but sometimes it takes me a long time to finally get around to actually pulling the trigger. But once I do, it starts moving, but then it takes a while to get around to it.
I think that's why our dynamic, not just as friends, but as creator/friends, is really good, because I come up with a lot of ideas too, and then I'm just naturally more pushy than you are, just at least in that way. So I'll keep hey, what about this? What about this? What about this? And even just to get you to when you came down to visit me, that was years in the making, but you came down and we had a good time, but it just took a while. But yeah, I think that works with our dynamic, I think.
Now, completely shifting gears from our dynamic to potentially spooky news stories.
Hey, listen, at the time of recording this, and as the time you're listening, not recording, but listening, it's October. We're near the spooky times.
Yeah, it's all
the spooky times. Spooky days.
Oh, my.
The spooky days are here. What are we doing, Weston?
We are looking at some legitimate news stories that were written. I know when mine were written. I know where mine come from. I actually don't know your news. How many stories do you have? Just one or two?
I have just one, but I can probably easily pull a second. Well,
because I prepared two because they're both short, so I didn't know how long yours was going to be. So I made sure I had a second one. But the idea is what we're doing is we're just sharing a couple of news stories that were written as news, not as tabloid, not as whatever. This is stuff that happened, but it's spooky in some way. Mine are focused more on the ghosts in the news, and I don't know what yours is. Should I? Do you want to kind of give a preface or?
Well, I guess I'll say a similar thing. So I also, at least for mine, I do have the date that it was written, and these are completely legitimate news articles that. Our goal is to kind of make it either, ghosty, supernatural, paranormal sort of stuff. And so mine is also ghost related too.
I'm gonna die if since we did this completely unrelated. I mean, unbeknownst to each other, basically. I'm gonna die if we have purpose. The same stories.
For some reason, I have a feeling that we do, and I thought this last night too, because I thought, what if you just happened to search the same kind of thing I did to find this? So I guess we'll see, but I'm really excited to go over this, because after reading this, I don't want to say anything. I'll just wait till it's my turn. But I really enjoyed the read. Actually, it's kind of spooky, just a little bit. But it was also a kind of fun to read.
as we go. I'll start with one of mine since I have two. I'll start with one of mine. We'll go with yours, and we'll see how we're running.
Okay.
This one, I wanted to do. The reason I came up with this is I came upon an old ghost story from the Victorian era. So this came out, I forget what it was, 18 something, but 1897. This is a ghost appears near Woolwich.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
Woolwich.
The Woolwich. This is somewhere in Europe. I don't remember where because it takes place in Plumstead, near Woolwich. So anyway, here we go. This is the entire article. It's pretty short here, but its headline is "A Ghost Appears Near Woolwich." Subtitle: Schoolboys enjoy the sport of pelting it.
I love it. Okay.
Plumstead, near Woolwich, has for the past week been the scene of a ghostly visitation in which the spirit has appeared enveloped at night in white array. Several children who saw the apparition were so alarmed that they have been laid up from the effects. Its haunts were principally the grounds of St. James Church and schools, where lads to the number of about 100 assembled to waylay the ghost, who was seen flitting about. The assailants hurled stones by which several panes of glass were broken, and on the police appearing, 2 of the ringleaders were arrested. But on being brought up at Woolwich, they were discharged. One night, the visitor visited the grounds of Mr. J.R. Jolly J.P. and was seen in a tree arrayed in white apparel. The freak referred to has been traced to an individual of solid flesh living in the neighborhood, and the ghost has been put under restraint.
Wow. I just love the mentality. Like, okay, you know what? This ghost is freaking us out. Let's throw crap at it.
Yes. That's the story, is that apparently a man, I don't know, I guess in a bed sheet or something, who was dressed as a ghost, was around kind of just causing mischief or whatever. And because it has this point that several children who saw the apparition were so alarmed that they had been waylaid by the effects. So, or laid up rather from the effects. So they were like, I don't know, hospitalized or fainted or some nonsense that. This is, again, 1897. So it's like, oh my gosh, a ghost, a fainting spell or whatever. So that happened to a few children. So 100 children showed up to this location with stones and rocks to find this ghost man and started hurling them at him.
They're going to stone the ghost man.
They were trying to stone the ghost man. They broke all this glass and caused a ruckus. The police show up, apparently arrested the ringleaders. So there was like a couple of children that were like in charge of the whole thing. But because they were from the area, they just kind of let them go.
I just love like these... whatever, just let him do his thing. And he's not bothering anybody.
Well, it was the kids they let go. The ghost wasn't caught until later on the grounds of Mr. J.R. Jolly J.P. I don't know what any of that means, but Mr. Jolly here saw him in a tree, and I guess must have got the cops involved somehow, because then he was put under restraint, which I take to mean that he must have been arrested for being a public nuisance in some way. But
okay, yeah, that made more sense. I was getting confused for a second. So I didn't hear the tree part. I must have missed that. So they found him in a tree?
Yeah, and this was after the children had been dispersed. So there's 100 children throwing rocks at this guy. He must have like escaped or something, because he didn't get arrested. The ringleaders of the kids got arrested.
I just have this visual of these kids going, "Come on, guys!" and they're throwing the rocks, and he's, he's just dodging these rocks, trying to climb up a tree, and these,
get him, belt him,
get him! He's like shaking, just trying to shake all the rocks off, trying to get up to the top of the tree. Oh, that's funny. He probably stayed up there for like 2 days. Like the kids were just, we got to go home. They're getting tired, and he's just chilling up in a tree.
No, you can't get me.
Oh, that is hilarious. I
thought this was a great story.
So that's pretty good. What's funny? That is a good story. I actually thought I was going to come to this segment tonight with like a story that was significantly older than yours, but mine is just 1 year older, 1896.
Oh.
So mine is also ghost related, but this one takes place in the good old US of A. In fact, this was an article put in the New York Times. In 1896, it takes place in Brooklyn, specifically the area of Flatbush, is what it's called. And the article is called Flatbush Has a Ghost.
Oh, no.
With the subtitle, this one's a little bit darker than yours, but Flatbush Has a Ghost. With the subtitle, It Has Returned for Its Hand, which Mr. Norton dug up. So I just love how this is written. Okay, here we go. The old town of Flatbush, now the 29th ward of Brooklyn, has a ghost, a Simon Pure, sure enough ghost that nightly walks on East Broadway near Nostrand Avenue and stops at the house of Charles Norton to make inquiries for a hand that it lost there many years ago while its restless spirit was in the flesh. These visits are not fully appreciated by Norton or his wife, but it appears that Norton is to blame for the appearance of this ghost because his ghost ship was not heard of until Norton, while searching for gold in his cellar, dug up a hand that had lain undisturbed for years. There was a ring on one of the fingers of the exhumed hand, and when this had been rubbed, the ghost, in true Arabian Nights fashion, appeared, and as if it failed to get instructions from Norton, it is now said that all at once is the hand and ring, that thereafter it will cease worrying the descendants of the early Dutch in Flatbush. The story that of the old Dutchmen in the town tell of the ghost is that 60 years ago, a belated traveler with lots of gold in his belt stayed overnight at the farmhouse of one Krug, a thrifty Dutch farmer. Krug, when he heard of the large amount of gold that the visitor had about him, gave up his own room to the stranger and insisted that he should occupy it. The next day, the visitor had disappeared, and when the family asked Krug about it, he said the man had departed before daybreak. The bed clothing was also missing, and Krug accounted for this by saying that he had burned it because the stranger had just recovered from an attack of yellow fever. That's a sign of the times right there.
Yeah.
Subsequently, a man's hand was found behind the bed. It had been cut off by Krug with an axe, it is said. When the hand was found, Krug disappeared and the hand was buried. Miss Norton, in speaking of the ghost and its uncanny visits, so back to the current day in the house, said the house was haunted, and she continued, "Everybody who has lived here since murder was done under this roof has had bad luck. One man who occupied the house about 40 years ago left his wife and children and ran away with another man's wife. Another was a burglar, and when he was caught, a whole lot of silverware was found buried in the cellar. Another committed suicide. We've been here for 6 years now, and there has been nothing but sickness in our family. I don't like to talk about these things. It sends a chill down my back. Norton, while hunting for the silverware supposed to be buried in his cellar, dug up 2 rusty Revolutionary swords and several pieces of ancient coin before the hand was unearthed." And that's it.
Oh my goodness.
Flatbush had a ghost.
Flatbush had a ghost.
So first thing I just want to say before we get into the story is I just love how it's written. The sentences are so long.
Yeah.
They are so long.
Yeah, like, because you said yours was 1890, what was it?
96, yeah.
1896. So, yeah, we're talking about, that's the Victorian era, long sentences. They usually didn't even use paragraphs. There's just giant blocks of text.
Like, and I'd say my favorite line is this, is like, right when he says, he's stops at the house of Charles Norton to make inquiries for a hand that it lost there many years ago while its restless spirit was in the flesh. I love that because it's like, I'm here to inquire about it. Then the next thing is these visits are not fully appreciated by Norton or his wife. That was my
favorite.
Of course they're not.
These visits didn't really go appreciated, Just could really do without them, in fact.
So, yeah, now here's the thing. This is on New York Times' website. So, this is a legitimate, archive here. April 21st, 1896, Flatbush had a ghost, or has a ghost. So, yeah, it was a little darker than yours, but the wording of it really kind of made me laugh when I was reading through it, so I had to bring this up.
I like it. I like that. Yeah, that one's a bit darker. It's a little bit spookier. It's definitely got the vibe of being a ghost story or a tale but it's like it's written like this happened. We were being assailed by a guy looking for his hand. Like you could see that in reality, right? That some guy missing his hand, who's maybe a little crazy, is going door to door like, I'm looking for my hand. You know what I mean?
But it just, I do. It's just the weird thing is that, I mean, it really is written. This is just an American news outlet in the 1890s, and they're really talking about it as the Nortons tell it. So like they're saying, this is a ghost. This is a ghost. You know, it's very interesting. So, yeah, there's somebody dug up a hand. That's all I know. So mine was a little longer, and that's why I just had one. But on this page, I bet are others because there's a page of a few like crazy. Can't believe the New York Times posted these. So if you have another to tell, and we still have a little time, I can probably pull up another one really quick.
Yeah, I like it. I love that yours came from the New York Times because where I'm pulling mine, they're coming from the Illustrated Police News. Which
Illustrated Police.
I forget where they printed exactly, but this is I think English is where they posted these. And what they did is that they would have all these news stories, but some of their like key news stories they would illustrate so that there'd be a picture that goes along with it. But it wouldn't be like a photo; it'd be illustrated, right? So that's where these are coming from. So I like that I've got some from over the pond, and you've got some from here. So I think that's kind of neat that we've got these supposedly true ghost stories, which, like mine, turned out that the man was arrested wasn't a real ghost, but, it's a story that has a ghost. Yours is this phantom, this handless phantom mystery.
Handless phantom. Handless phantom.
Handless phantom. That's match. That's the episode after Danny has had his arm brutally cut off from Danny Phantom. That'd be like season 7 finale. He lost his hand when he was only 14. Now he's handless Phantom.
He lost his fingers all in a machine.
This turns into the help me out. The oh my god, my brain is shut down. The Will Smith guy. The show he did
Will Smith guy.
In the 90s. Help me.
Men in Black?
No, Bel Air. Man in Bel Air. Men in Bel Air. God, help me, brain.
Yeah.
Brain is functioning, not shutting down.
Brain.exe.
I still don't know what the name of the show is. Something Bel Air. The something of Bel Air?
Fresh Prince of Bel Air.
Yeah, thank you. Thank God. Dang.
Sorry.
Christ.
I thought you had it at that point.
No, I'm having a stroke over here. The Fresh Prince of Bel Air. Dang. I'm like, it's got Will Smith in it. But yeah, I wanted the
Bearded Black.
Anyway, yeah, no, I mean he's in that too. But
he is in that too.
I was trying to say is that the Danny Phantom song turns into a Fresh Prince of Bel Air about him losing his hand, so they have to like relocate him to get away from the evil ghosts that are after him or something.
I like it.
God, that was a trip for me. I'm sorry.
Oh, man.
I do have...
Yeah, I just witnessed a stroke. Yeah.
I was like, come on, brain. I didn't even know what to... I've got Google open, but I didn't know what to search. Will Smith show.
Right.
Like, okay.
It's like, it just goes, Fresh Prince, dumbass. What do you think?
Come on. Probably. No, actually, I didn't try it. I got to do it now. Okay, Google. Will Smith show. Let's see what it says. The first thing that comes up is Bel Air, but it's season 1 on Peacock. It's BEL-AIR, so that must be some sort of documentary on it or something. I'm not entirely sure. Oh, weird.
Oh, there was like a what's it called? Wasn't there like a biopic sort of thing about like the making of that show, maybe, or something like that?
There must have been, because this came out 2022, so that's this year. I don't know when. So yeah, that must be what that is. And then if I go over a little bit, I see the Fresh Prince of Bel Air reunion 2020. Oh, weird. Anyway, we've diverted a little bit by this. I'll go ahead and read one more spooky news tale. This one's pretty short as well. It's my first one's my favorite still. Just 100 kids showing up to pelt a man that looks like a ghost. Still my favorite.
Poor guy.
Here's another one for you. This one coming from December of 1878. Weirdly enough, I don't have a title on this listed on my clip. I think it got cut out. But an old man named Churchill was murdered in a cottage near Chard. For some time after the execution, the building remained uninhabited. But at length, it was let to a laborer and his family. but the incomers soon found they could not obtain rest. The state that the murderous Kitty has been frequently seen to glide about the premises in ghostly attire, that old Churchill has been seen distinctly observed to look in at the window with hideous countenance. This, added to the appearance of blood on the floor of the room in which the tragedy was enacted, supernatural movements amongst the furniture and other articles, and unearthly noises in the immediate vicinity of the cottage, so unsettle the occupants that they at last abandon the dwelling, which is now regarded as haunted.
It's like, you know what? The couch is flying around the room. Probably haunted. Just going to throw that out there.
Yeah, this is just a news story about a house that some people moved into, saw some crazy stuff, and left. And that's the story. It's like, yep, people moved in. That old house where Churchill got killed, got brutally murdered. That one, yeah, family moved in there, moved out. They saw some weird stuff, man.
Same with my story too, and even your first one. It kind of news then just sounds like almost like gossip. You're just throwing it on a paper.
Which, I mean,
just like the small town gossip.
When we were talking about like how we get our news and how it should be like the important information and that kind of thing, it is kind of funny that, like, they didn't have the internet. They couldn't verify. They heard a story about a thing that happened. That was the news, Yeah,
that's so weird. I just love it. You're right, though. It just sounds like, yeah, so-and-so. It's someone just giving you that. That's what people are learning. What was the Kitty thing? Kitty? That was
so out of left field. The state that the murderess Kitty. So apparently Kitty is the name of the woman that killed Churchill.
Okay.
So
I was thinking, is this like a murder cat? Like, what's going on here?
I know it was in quotes, like that was maybe her nickname. So like this is like local news or something, because I'm like, what? So that's the murderess. This woman named Kitty has been frequently seen to glide about the premises in ghostly attire.
I guess that makes sense. At first I thought Kitty.
And then old Churchill, the guy who was murdered, has been seen distinctly observed to look in at the window with hideous countenance. So like you could, like the laborer, because they didn't name the people, his family. It was a laborer and his family moved in. They would see like the dead guy looking in from the window, looking at them, and they would see the murderess floating around the house, and furniture would move, and there's blood on the floor.
I could just see it, just the way it's written too. It's like, honey, let's move. It's just very just straight. We should probably move. It seems haunted. Like they're treating it like it's like a water problem or something. It's like there's a leak. Yeah, it's haunted. Yeah, probably should move. Yeah,
it was all these things so unsettle the occupants that they at last abandon the dwelling.
See, yeah, at last too. It's like, yeah, after like you come home one night, it's like, all right, honey, the couch is in the kitchen again. It's just a common occurrence.
Really, I swear to God, if that happens one more time, I'm out. I'm out of here.
Honey, stop moving the couch. I'm not doing it, I swear. This is what they want us to do. They want us to fight.
Mommy and Daddy are fighting again.
Turns out it's just the kids. Oh, then 100 kids run in and pelt the family.
100 kids come running in, breaking glass and throwing stones.
So I have another one, maybe to kind of wrap this up here.
Okay.
I haven't read this, so this is blind, but I do believe that it's at least going to be in theme with our spookiness. It's still another ghost story. So this was in 1898, September 23rd. The title is Ghost Moved Macaroni.
Ooh.
Subtitle, Prayers will be said today to lay a restless West Orange spirit.
Oh.
So this is in Orange, New Jersey.
Okay.
Prayers will be said tomorrow morning in the Church of St. Michael, the Archangel, in St. Matthew Street, this city, to lay a ghost which is driving the Italian residents of White Street, West Orange, into superstitious frenzy. Ghostly rappings, hand clappings, and other things that rhyme. No, I'm just kidding. Ghostly rappings, hand clappings, and other supernatural demonstrations have been heard and experienced since Monday in the store and rooms occupied by Frank Petro and family, who keep a grocery store in one end of a big frame tenement house just across the orange line. It was in this house that Peter Cristano, I'm going to say Cristano. Anyway.
Sure.
So it was in this house that Peter Cristano was stabbed by Lorenzo Corbo, an old organ grinder, at a New Year's Eve party 8 months ago. The neighbors assert that the ghostly demonstrations are caused by the restless spirit of the murdered man. There's a lot of names here. Father Aquila, pastor of the Church of St. Michael, was called in last night. He prayed and sprinkled holy water in the rooms where the noises were heard. While he was in the house, there were no demonstrations, but as soon as he had left, the family and neighbor, the noises were sorry, I said recommended. I'm so sorry. The noises were recommenced with redoubled frequency and violence. Petro, who is a big, hardy man of intelligent appearance, says he does not believe in ghosts, but does not know what else to think. At midnight last night, he declares he heard a noise as if the front doors of a store, which were fastened with a heavy bar set in staples, had been thrown wide open and the bar flung to the floor. He tried to get out of bed to investigate, but he was held down by some invisible power, which pressed upon his chest and made it impossible for him to move. The quote-unquote presence remained for an hour, he says. The store doors were locked as usual this morning, but a box of macaroni, which had been placed on top of a shelf, stood on the floor in the middle of the room with a handful of long straws laying across the top in the form of a cross.
Ooh.
At times, a New York Times correspondent heard the noises tonight and made thorough investigation of the rooms and cellar without ascertaining their cause. Samuel Cristiano, a brother of the murdered man, who keeps a saloon in the next block, is convinced that the quote-unquote presence is that of his brother's spirit. He says he went last night into the room where most of the noises are heard and begged the spirit to make itself visible. It did not, but as he rose from his knees after praying, three unusually loud knocks sounded just under the place where he was standing. Ugh. Petro and his family say they have not slept for 3 nights. They went out to stay with friends tonight, and this sounds like gossip again. They went out to stay with friends tonight and intended to move out of the house tomorrow. Tenants in the other end of the house have heard nothing of the noises.
Wait, there's tenant. Oh yeah, because there's a tenement building. So the other people.
Yeah,
The other people in the
other
building are
people
like, we
there.
have no idea what you're talking about.
Wow, that was interesting. Macaroni in the shape of a cross. So the ghost moved macaroni.
Someone's doing
That's
macaroni
good.
art in their sleep. That's what's happening.
I think it's the brother. It's the brother.
It makes sense.
That's hilarious. Once again, it goes back to like the gossipy thing at the end. Like they went out to stay with friends tonight.
Tonight, like it came out when the news came out. That there was a plan made and known. Oh yeah, they're staying with friends tonight. Print it now.
Yeah, they're gonna move out tomorrow. Tenants in their house, they're gonna stick around. They haven't heard anything. So, yeah, I like my first story better, but boy, this was interesting. A lot of weird Italian names. There's a couple that I actually left out because it was too hard to read. Cristiano. But yeah, so some ghosty, spooky stuff.
So that just goes to show everybody, if you do see any wild ghosts out there in the neighborhood asking for their missing hands, you and 99 other children gather a bunch of stones and pelt the ghosts until the problem is solved. That's what we have come to learn today.
I just love the idea still of these kids. I love your first story. He's like wearing a sheet, and then he takes off like, guys, stop! I'm a guy, stop! And they just keep throwing them. Stop, please! I'll tell your parents! That's some funny stuff.
It's good. I like it. Well, these have been our spooky news stories. We've got, I don't know what coming up next week. That's Alex's business. But we got some spooky we got a few weeks of spookums left.
Yeah, we thought we'd kind of stick in theme a little bit here, so expect the spooks. Not too spook, but at least a little spook.
Just a little on the spookage.
And you can quote that.
Not too spook, just a little spook.
We got a little spookage problem going on over here on Profoundish.
Oh God, we should probably go get a doctor on that.
Hey, before I get the doctor, Weston,
yes.
Why don't you tell everybody where people can find us and what they should do?
You can find us. This is Profoundish that you have been listening to, and you can find it on, Anchor, Spotify, YouTube, Apple. It's on all the places. Look us up. You can use the @ProfoundishPod on Twitter and Instagram and TikTok to follow us on all of those locations. I've been Weston Hasty. You can find everything that I do on my website, westonhasty.com. You can find Alex.
Yes, you can find me at Alex Duquette at alexduquette.net. Everything is there. You can also listen to the podcast there if you'd like as well, anywhere you'd like. Speaking of the podcast, though, I would also like to say, please leave a rating if you feel so inclined to do so. If you enjoy what you listen to, it does mean a lot. You can leave ratings on Spotify as well as Apple Podcasts. So if that's your platform of choice, that means a lot. Also, podcast listeners, podcast listeners, you're all listening to the podcast. Spotify listeners, there's sometimes extra little bonuses. So definitely pay attention. You can answer polls, you can answer questions, and we can see your feedback directly on Spotify. I don't even know if you knew that, Weston, but
I saw that.
Those are on there. In fact, so yeah, definitely do that. That's fun. We can kind of see what you think, and we'd love to get your feedback on stuff too. So
yeah, if you're on Spotify, answer our polls and questions and such. Hit us on our socials.
Do it.
Do all of the things. But until next time, we have to go see a doctor about the spookage all over Alex.
Too much spookage. Bye!
Bye!